Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are jumping straight into what is, quite literally, the ultimate cosmic detective story. We're looking into the origins of Lord Shiva. Now, if you grew up hearing these stories, you've probably always been told that Shiva has no beginning and no end, right? But when you actually start digging into the ancient texts, this incredibly profound and honestly mind-bending mystery unfolds. So let's just get right into it. So let's look at this core paradox. If Shiva is eternal, who are his parents? Traditional wisdom teaches us that Shiva is Swayambhu. That's the Sanskrit word for self-manifested, unborn, undying. And yet, as we're going to see today, some of the most revered ancient Puranas explicitly name his parents. They even describe his birth in super vivid detail. I mean, how exactly can a being without a beginning be born? The scriptural confusion around this whole thing is just absolutely fascinating. Look at this. On one hand, the Vishnu Purana tells us that Lord Vishnu's navel sprouted a lotus which birthed Brahma, and then Shiva was born from Brahma's forehead. Makes sense, right? But then you flip over to the Shiva Purana and you get the exact opposite. It claims that while Shiva was rubbing his knees, Vishnu was born from the dirt. Literally a complete 180. So who actually created whom? To figure this out, we need to unravel the stories behind these scriptures. Which brings us to section 1, the infinite pillar, and the search for the supreme. To really grasp the nature of Shiva, we gotta look at one of the most famous narratives in these texts. And naturally, it starts with an argument. The texts describe a time when Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver, were locked in this massive, fierce debate over who was the absolute greatest. Brahma is super proud of his creation. Vishnu's equally proud of being the universe's caretaker. Then, right at the peak of their clash, boom. A boundless, giant pillar of blazing light, a massive Jyotirlinga, just appears out of nowhere between them. And this mysterious voice echoes out, challenging them. Whoever can find the end of this pillar is truly the greatest. Now, what's so cool here is the sheer epic scale of this search. These aren't just two guys craning their necks. They literally transform. Brahma takes the form of a swan to fly infinitely upwards to find the top, while Vishnu transforms into this mighty boar to dig infinitely downwards to find the base. And they don't just look for a few days. The texts say they searched tirelessly for thousands of years, tearing through the cosmos. And that brings us to the dramatic aftermath. After millennia of searching, they both return, just utterly exhausted. The crucial takeaway here is how differently they respond. Vishnu, sticking to his righteous nature, honestly admits defeat. He flat out says, "I failed to find the end." But Brahma? Blinded by his pride as the creator, he lies. He stands there and claims, "I found the top." Literally, the moment that lie leaves his lips, Shiva himself emerges directly from that infinite pillar of light, and he is furious at Brahma's deceit. He actually curses him, declaring that Brahma will never be widely worshipped on Earth, which, by the way, totally mirrors the real-world scarcity of Brahma temples today, which is pretty wild. But more importantly for our cosmic mystery, this event establishes Shiva's true nature. By appearing from a pillar with absolutely no top and no bottom, he proves he is the eternal infinite. No beginning, no end. But, wait, if Shiva is this infinite, boundless pillar of light, why on earth does the Vishnu Purana describe him being born as a vulnerable little child? Let's explore that in section 2. The crying child. The formless takes form. To answer that question, we actually have to rewind to the early cosmic timeline. Picture this. Everything is submerged in water. Brahma has just been born from Vishnu's lotus. Suddenly, Shiva appears right in front of them. Now, Brahma, completely ignorant of Shiva's supreme identity at this point, refuses to recognize him. This deeply offends Shiva. Vishnu has to quickly step in, and he grants Brahma divine vision so he can actually perceive Shiva's true, infinite nature. Realizing he made a colossal mistake, Brahma apologizes profusely. And to make amends, he begs Shiva for a very specific boon. He asks that Shiva one day be born as his son, and Shiva, being immensely compassionate, agrees. So, fast forward thousands of years. Brahma is deep in meditation, trying to figure out how to populate the universe. He desperately needs life. Suddenly, as if remembering that ancient blessing, the eternal, completely formless Shiva physically manifests right into Brahma's lap. But, and this is the crazy part, he doesn't appear as some stoic, powerful yogi. He appears as a weeping infant boy. This is literally the only time in all the scriptures that Shiva is described in a child form. And the details of this story are just fascinating. The child is crying uncontrollably. When Brahma asks him why, the infant innocently replies that he's weeping because he doesn't have a name. So to appease the kid, Brahma starts offering him names. The very first one he gives is Rudra, which literally translates to the crying one. But the child rejects it, keeps crying. So Brahma tries again. He offers Sarva, Hava, Ugra, Bhim, Pashupati, Ishan, Mahadev. Actually, Brahma ultimately has to offer him 108 different names just to finally pacify him. So yes, Shiva was born, but it was purely as the fulfillment of a promise. He actively chose to take that form. Moving on to Section 3, the Cosmic Parents, unveiling the ultimate source. Okay, so we have the infinite pillar on one side and the crying child on the other. How in the world do we reconcile these two? Well, to finally solve the mystery of who actually created the universe and the gods themselves, we have to make one absolutely crucial distinction. It's the key that solves all those scriptural contradictions we talked about earlier. There is Sadashiva, the formless, ultimate supreme soul, the pure cosmic energy. And then there is Shankar, or Mahesh, the physical deity, the ascetic who lives on Mount Kailash, the husband of Parvati. The texts explain that confusing this formless energy with the physical deity is exactly why the origin stories seem like they contradict each other. Now, keeping that distinction in mind, the texts reveal the ultimate truth. The true parents of the cosmic deities are probably not who you'd think. The ultimate creators are actually the Supreme Soul, called Sadashiva, and the Supreme Nature Goddess, Prakriti, who is also known as Mandurga. Together, they are the source of everything. Brahma, Vishnu, and the physical form of Shiva, Rudra, are all just their manifestations. They were created for very specific universal tasks. Let's quickly trace the timeline of how this whole thing actually went down. Long before time itself even existed, Sadashiva and Durga were roaming in Anandvan, the spiritual realm of Kashi. They desire to expand creation so they could eventually enter nirvana, that state of ultimate liberation and peace. But to manage a massive undertaking like creating a universe, they needed some help. So from his left side, Sadashiva manifested Lord Vishnu to be the preserver, and from his right side, he manifested Lord Brahma to be the creator. They were quite purposefully delegating the cosmic workload. And that leads perfectly into Section 4, the grandfather riddle, a cosmic loop. This brings us to a really lighthearted but profoundly revealing story where some ancient sages decide they're going to interrogate Lord Shankar about his own lineage. So this group of highly learned, super curious sages approach him. They just ask him point blank, "Oh Mahadev, you are the creator of all, but who is your creator? Who is your father?" Shankar, totally calm, answers truthfully based on his physical manifestation. He just says, "My father is Brahma." The sages are a little puzzled, but they follow his logic, right? So they ask their next question. Okay, if Brahma is your father, who is your grandfather? Shankar, without missing a beat, answers, Vishnu. Because as we established a minute ago, Brahma was born from the lotus that sprouted from Vishnu's navel, so logically speaking, that makes Vishnu the grandfather of Shankar's physical form. Okay, now the sages think they've really got him cornered. They lean in and ask the ultimate question. Then who, Lord Shankar, is your great-grandfather? And guys, here is the absolute brilliant punchline. Shankar just smiles at the sages and simply says, Shiva. He literally names himself, Sadashiva, the supreme formless soul, as his own great-grandfather. And right then and there, it hits the sages. They realize the sheer magnitude of this cosmic loop. Shiva is the beginning and the end. He exists before the universe is even born, orchestrating his own physical manifestations, and he remains long after the universe's destruction. He is the ultimate self-sustaining circle of existence. There is literally no one above and no one before. Which leaves us with one final, deeply provocative thought to take away from this explainer today. We have firmly established that Shiva is the supreme, formless infinite. He's totally beyond time, completely devoid of death, fear, and any worldly attachment. So, why is there such a famous story where the supreme, detached being's universe shatters, causing him to weep uncontrollably, just like a mere mortal, over the death of his wife, Sati? I mean, how can the infinite, detached cosmic soul be bound by such raw human grief? I want you to really think about that. It's a massive paradox, and perhaps it's something we'll dive into next time. Thanks so much for learning with me today.